The sprinters teams will be starting to come with more numbers to the front. The GC men as well will want to be getting into the position on the front end of the peloton, and all of that will create an up in the pace being set on the front of the peloton, and that will just melt this advantage of 117 down very quickly. And yeah, talking about melting down, I think, looking at the conditions here, it looks like lovely conditions, but it is quite hot out there. I was talking about 36 degrees, and that is going to be, slowly energy sapping into this final. Not that it's going to be a problem today, but in the days to come, all of those days out there for hours in these hot conditions, that will also cause a lot of fatigue for a lot of the riders here. But yeah, we're on to this final climb now, and 5.9 kilometers to the summit, and we can see the gap 1:15 at the moment, so it's going to be an interesting one. Will they be able to hold on all the way to the top? It's looking unlikely.
Let's see. 5.8 kilometers. I think they'll just go over it. The pace that's being put on here is actually to discourage anybody else, I think, from rolling off the front. Let's see if that is the case. Certainly the pace is completely different. That says 38.6. I think it's quicker than that, to be honest. As we head for this next little lump that we're going to be dealing with. 5.6 kilometers. It's not the most testy climb. What are we dealing with? About 6.4 kilometers at 3.4%. It does get up to 5%, and of course it's hot as well, despite the fact that the jersey of Movistar is apparently called Ice Cool. There we are. That's the nickname of this new colour scheme that they've gone for, Sean. I'd say I quite like it.
Yes, it's a nice kit, and yeah, it's certainly a big change from what we've seen with Movistar over the last number of years. That much brighter blue colour. But yeah, it's not something that is going to help to keep the riders cool at all. But yeah, that is what they're calling it, ice cool.
There you are. That's how the intermediate points were awarded. Wout van Aert picking up 10. Iribau, Mate and the rest of the break hoovering up everything else of not real consequence to those out front. But here is the third. This is the points provisional, and there it is. Now owning green as it stands, Van Aert, but Caden Groves, who can pick up points at the line. There's a big gap between first and second, 50 and then 30 points. So if Groves wins today, he will maintain his lead in green. Sean, that will be by a handsome margin. Yes,
it's an interesting one now as we go, and you would expect those riders to be very much close together. Looking at the finish yesterday, they were first and second, and I'd not be surprised if we see a repeat of that again today. So yeah, it's these battles that go on within the race, as we have seen already today with the guys in the breakaway. The mountain classification battle went on there, and yeah, the green jersey battle is going to go on between the two main contenders. We have seen here already yesterday, and we will see that again today.
Here we go, 4Ks to the top. Gaps come down to about a minute. They might just indeed fall over the top here. But there seems to be a lot of determination to guard the front of the pack. And at the moment, that duty is falling to Visma Lease Bike. I guess it's in their interests, Sean, to make this as tough as possible on Caden Groves.
Well, I'm not sure if it's to make it difficult for Caden Groves, because he gets over those sort of climbs very well. I think it's just that we're getting into the point of the race now where they're getting the call from the director of sportives. Okay, guys, we have to be in the top 30 riders in the peloton over this climb. Get onto the descent, and then into the final of the race, because it is an important moment. And we can see there that there's probably more the GC guys starting to appear, and that's what we're going to see more of. And out front, of course, the guys know with the distance we have to go from the top of the climb, it's a long ways for the guys in the breakaway, so they're not going to persist really out front, and this advantage is going to come down very, very quickly.
Here's a man who had a rough old time of things yesterday, is Josh Tarling. He's a bigger unit than you might perhaps think for a 20-year-old. Very, very strong, amazing time trialist. Has had some real ill fortune, and I think that was magnified yesterday, Sean, with his tumble. He really has. He's had bad luck with technical issues, tumbling, and basically just everything's being thrown at this young man.
Yes, well, we did hear from after the opening time trial. He was very disappointed with his performance. And having that crash yesterday, you know, that really tests the morale, and it's a difficult one for a young rider like a Josh Tarling. But, you know, he has to, you know, keep his motivation. Hopefully the team will look after him very well and just, you know, get him through those days now after the spill at high speed yesterday. But yeah, it is a difficult time for him because, you know, Ineos Grenadiers came into this race. The opening stage time trial was a perfect opportunity for Tarling to win a stage, take the red jersey. But unfortunately, again, there was other riders that were just going that bit faster in the TT, and then the crash on top of things. So yeah, it's a difficult time for him, and hopefully, you know, he gets through the next day or two or the next 3 days, because he's going to be suffering. There's going to be soreness after that high-speed spill yesterday, and get through those days and see what he can do later in the race. Of course, the final time trial, he'll be looking at that, but that's a long, long way out. There's a lot of difficult mountain stages. But for Josh, you know, this is about, you know, seeing how he will perform in the 3-week tour, because it is his first one. So, you know, get into the second week, get into the third week, and, you know, build your stamina to ride these 3-week races. That's what he has got to do here.
Well, if he does build his stamina, being a time trialist is just such a useful thing. If he can get over some big mountains as well, he could be badging himself up for true greatness, as if he isn't fabulous enough already. Well, we're looking at one of the old border watchtowers, I believe, here up on the high plain, where the rain in Spain falls mainly. But we are indeed heading over towards Spain, and indeed the temperatures over the next few days are going to really intensify. There is a danger we might be nudging up to 40 Celsius. I know 36 today is going to feel hot enough, and there are hot weather protocols that may well see some of our days curtailed just a little bit, hoping we're not going to get there. Rider safety, Sean, has to be forefront.
Yes, it has, but it will have to get, I think, over the 40s before they would you know, start shortening the stages, or, you know, making amends to what the time start. And that is a difficult one, of course, with television. Of course, you could go forward into the stage and maybe not do the first 50 or 60 kilometres, but then, you know, you're starting the big heat of the day anyway. So, yeah, it's rare we see with, you know, real warm conditions where the race is the schedule is changed, but yeah, you just never know, because we know of the latter years these temperatures, you know, they can get so warm in certain areas, and especially in Spain, the areas we are going to down south in the next number of days, it can get you know, so warm, might be, you know, difficult to be able to ride in the conditions.
Let us see. We're 1,700 metres, or at least our breakaway is from the peak, the last of our categorised climbs today. The gap's only 1 minute and 12. As I said, they may well just fall over the top of it, quite frankly. And then we'll see what happens, because there's quite a few teams who are just starting to encamp a little bit up front, one of which is Lotto Destiny. Victor Campenaerts tried to get up the road. They've got Andy Cron to look after later on, the Great Dane. Cron yesterday was he didn't have the best of runs, but yeah, in fact, was he one of the ones that was caught out by the crash? I think he might well have been. But let's see how they function today. I think they're minded to just test the water a little bit, open over the top. They've got Lenny van Eetvelt, of course, who did go well. Let's see. It's all about how the rest of the day is going to be paraded, and there's a few rollovers here, and that usually suggests that teams are saying, look, we're here, knock it off.
Yes, well, we're starting to see that it's trying to take the positions here, and also we see a lot of riders just picking up fresh bottles from, you know, the team helpers on the roadside, and when you see them move, you think there's an attack here, but it's actually just to get to the right side of the road to pick up a fresh bottle.
There we are, a little bit of cooling on a very warm day. So minute 9 is what we are dealing with at the moment. Looks like it's settled at that. Mate's on the blower. Not sure. This will be him, I imagine, saying, look, I'm going to have a dig at this, and then, if you wouldn't mind, a couple of bottles on the other side of the hill. There has to be just after the line if he's going to pick anything up. Meanwhile, looks like Vuelta, who's just decided to push on, the Hungarian champion from Team Visma Lease Bike. And in fact, they're busy taking a feed. Easier to take with a slower pace on a climb, Sean, which is what we're seeing.
Yes, well, it's easy to take a bottle of the Musette on the climb. You know, the pace you're going, considering on the flat, when we see them sometimes in the feeding zones, you can arrive at 50 kilometers per hour, and that's where it's really dangerous. But we did see there with Walter, you know, when he takes the bag, it just swings a lot, so it's always a difficult one.
Here we go. Mate was on the blower. Moment ago, saying I'm going to get over the top here, and then my day is done. The man staying with him, of course, was the man who was in the break with him yesterday. But Mate's made a big statement here, and he's nabbed those points as well. He is the leader of the King of the Mountains competition, and by an enhanced margin. He's done a terrific job in that competition today, Sean. Worthy.
Yes, well, he's taking stack of points to be picked up tomorrow, so yeah, it's going to be a one where to hold on to the jersey, he'll have a lot of work to do on tomorrow's stage.
The terrain for the next 30 kilometres after they go over the peak here is largely going down. Much of that is false flat descending, but it looks like teams are minded to keep an eye on each other. Keeping an eye on us, Bobby McEwen, who rejoins us.
I'm back, just on time for the descent.
Yeah.
That's where I did my best work.
But we always knew you did not like the climbs.
Well, you know, you can't have everything, Sean.
Exactly, he's got much of everything else.
Except for you, and then you could, but, you know,
Mate,
you're a rare breed.
Mate's on 9 points now. Yeah, Sean, especially when he came to the Vuelta. If Saddle-Saw didn't get in the way, it could have been 2 victories, Sean. What happened?
Saddle-Saw got in the way.
There you go. Goodness me. And you would have won that more comfortably then as well.
Well, I was on the road to winning it. I had, you know, most of the hard work done, and was in the race leaders jersey. And yeah, unfortunately, it was something that was giving me bother for quite a number of days beforehand, and it just got too painful to continue. And yeah, when you finish your career, you look back and, you know, the races you win, okay, I won that one. But the races that you lose that you think you should have won, they're the ones you put more thought and you think about them quite a lot.
Well, I know that's the case whenever we come down into Grenoble, Sean. You go very quiet. World champs. He was upset.
Don't mention it.
58 seconds. I won't mention it. 58 seconds only. Break is just about done for. I'm waiting to see some of these skirmishes, Robbie. I'm sure you are too.
Well, I think the obvious big skirmish is going to come in the last few kilometres with the sprinters try and get themselves in their preferred position, push a few others out of it. I think more that what we saw a moment ago is what we so often see, the contenders for GC being brought to the front and towards the top of a climb so they could be at the front for the way down and set the pace themselves, have less riders in front of them that can make a mistake and try and just stay out of trouble. In trouble now is the rider from Kern Farmer, because he's got one of the Euskaltel riders glued to his wheel and the other one is nicked off.
Yeah, I think this is a fracturing, really. We've got, what, 56 seconds. There's a big chase going on. There's quite a little bit of technicality coming through Alpedrina at the moment. And some water upon the road here once they've just slooshed out the fish market. Yeah, fish in this part of the world, there's a lot of it. In fact, if you ever go for pesca mista, it just means mixed fish. They'll give you what's fresh, and it's amazing. Fresh legs, fresh minds. Let's wait and see. 38.5 kilometres until we get to home. There is rather confusingly a whole raft of different point schedules that are up and available. And Sean, fewer points today available at the finish than there were yesterday.
Yes, 30 points today. It's a stage which they call it groups. It's the 2 and 3 group. Yesterday was group 1, so for today's stage finish, the winner gets the 30 points, second 25, third 22, and down to the top 15. So yeah, less than what we had yesterday because of the, I suppose, the difficulty of the stage we've got today. And we can see, as we've been talking about there, the battle is on now between the two teams out here in front, and the combativity award, of course, I think that's what they're thinking about. And for that one, you know, there's a nice bit of money there, 3,000 for the winner of that each day.
Oh, wow.
But, you know, it's funny how you talk about the difference in the stages and less points on offer at the finish for the points classification, green jersey today, because of the differences between the two stages. Yesterday had 50 metres more climbing than today's stage, yet today's stage is considered to be a harder stage and carries less points for, let's call it, the sprint jersey.
Go figure.
Yeah,
I think it was a very drunken evening when they sorted out the points.
but they did it at the same time they were figuring out the camera angles for the King of the Mountains points.
quite possibly. Goodness me. I don't know. I mean, go figure. A tougher day for the sprinters, so let's give them less points if they make it. I don't know. Anyway, it is what it is. No wonder Caden Groves or Wout van Aert, I should say, was wanting to stick it to Caden in the intermediate sprint, because 10 points up for grabs there, added to the gap between the pair of them if they do finish 1 and 2 at the end of the day. That it kind of magnified the importance of that intermediate there, Robbie.
Yeah, it's a tough decision as a sprinter to, you know, do you do it or do you not do it, save the legs or spend that energy at the foot of a climb where attacks maybe could happen and you could end up depleting yourself. And I think you'd really be kicking yourself if you put everything into an intermediate sprint, burn a few matches, get to the finish, lose by a very small margin and think, well, what if I hadn't done that intermediate sprint? I just saved everything. Yeah, you'd much rather have another stage victory and then just go on from there and you know, go head on into the battle for the points classification.
Still think Caden Groves is it's hard to look by today, but I must say Corbin Strong looked amazing yesterday, and I think he was slightly out of position. Get his positioning better today. I think Corbin Strong might well live up to his family name. Just pondering how yesterday went. We had quite a few bumps and bruises. Not quite sure what this particular villa is displaying to us, but apart from a glass roof. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's more to it than that, but unfortunately I don't have any notes on it, unless it was no, it's not the cathedral. No, so there you are, the glass roof villa that's well worth a visit. Must be a gallery. Anyway, that's my view. Minute and 10 back to the peloton, and they're charging into this. They don't want anything silly to happen, Sean. I don't think it will.
No, they certainly do not want anything silly to happen, and the teams who have done all the work here in the peloton, Visma, Lisa Boy, and Albus in the Koenig, they certainly want to take this one down to the sprint and leave their men battled out and for the stage victory. But yeah, for the moment we can see here this is pretty straightforward. The road quite large here, so as long as they continue on like that, we will see this peloton rolling along at this pace, and the advantage in minute and 9 out to the breakaway, and of course they are fighting up there out in front as well between themselves for the combativity award. So everything is pretty much under control, but still you have to keep your focus here and take it all the way down to the sprint.
I am very surprised that there's €3,000 up for grabs for the combativity award. I think that's possibly a magnification as to the reason to get yourself in the break, particularly for the smaller teams, which explains quite a bit. It's worth fighting for. Let's hear from Pavel Bittner.
Pavel, yesterday was the first stage for the sprinters in your Grand Tour debut, and you did a very good sprint. Are you happy with how it went?
Yeah, I think, as you said, for the first Grand Tour sprint, it was pretty good. I think the team did a really nice job in the final. I was on the wheel of Caden. And then, yeah, I think I did not have the best legs, but I hope today we can do a bit better.
How do you think it's going to be today? And how do you plan to face that last kilometers of the sprint?
Oh, yeah, there's quite a lot of things in the final. I think we did a quite good debrief in the bus. The road gets quite a bit narrow, and there's some road furniture, so I think we can be smart, and we have a really good team for it. So, yeah, we'll see.
Pavel, as I said, it's your debut in a Grand Tour. You come from a field that you were winning everything, now in the World Tour. How is it to adjust to this high level of competition?
I think luckily with the team we did all the right steps, so it doesn't feel too uncommon for me. So yeah, I think I belong here, so yeah, so far it feels pretty nice.
And in a race full of mountains, because we have another opportunity today, but then it's all going to be about the mountain. How do you think, are you going to ride mentally as well, right? Because it's going to be a hard race.
Yeah, I think it will be hard for everybody, also with the heat and everything. So yeah, we'll see. I think we take it day by day, and first we have some nice chances in the sprint, and then some harder days, but that's for Max as well, and I'm ready to help him.
Enjoy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There we are. He's actually, obviously, all going to be trying to look after Max Poole. He has Martijn Tussveld as his lead-out man, does Pavel Bittner. Got himself a bit confused yesterday. Despite that, he still managed to come through and finish in 6th place. But I think he might even be on for a podium. He's very quick, and he's got a good deal of belief. And he seems a thoroughly charming chap as well, Sean.
He does, and he sounds very chirpy there, and he has a right to be, because yesterday he was very much in the sprint there. He did say he was in the wheel of Caden Groves, and he just had not got the legs in the end. But to be up there in the end and finish what it was 4th, he finished on the stage yesterday. So yeah, it's 6th, and it was a great performance considering he's start in a 3-weeker in this company. A great first stage, the road stage for him yesterday.
Bittner more than he can chew. No, today he's going to do the job. 30.9 from home, and they are racing. How much was it for again? €3,000 for combativity?
Yes, 3,000.
And how much is a stage win?
Well, a stage win is probably 15,000.
Well, for some reason I've got 11,500 in my head. But
11,000, sorry, yeah.
Well, there you go. You see, that's why it's in my head. But that, 3 days in the break, you could be getting yourself up to, the rarefied heights of the money that's on offer for those who are up front. Look at that. It's not Stanage Edge, I'll give you that. Sierra de la Garduna. It looks very parched, Robbie, and you can almost feel the heat coming off the screen here.
Yeah, it's radiating right into our eyeballs, isn't it, Colin? 36 degrees, so in the absolute heat of the day. And it's well, not far away from being heat at the moment as well. And I'm just going through the final part of the stage and looking at the road furniture and twists and turns that Pavel Bittner was talking about in his interview. And that's where it's really going to be crucial for the teams to look after their team leaders, whether they be a sprinter or a GC rider trying to get into that safe zone of the final 3 kilometres. There's Mate and Ruiz. They're calling it a day and sitting up. It's mostly open roads in the run. In the final 7 kilometres, there's a number of roundabouts, but you're going to have your wits about you and good communication from the team, having done the study, saying which side of the roundabout you need to go on, or in the case you can pass on both sides. The outrider from the team, they drive in before the race, and they give all the information back. Left side is shorter or right side is faster, and just the little idiosyncrasies of the run-in. But there's also a couple of little kickers as well, as they basically come up onto what looks to be almost a freeway that they're going to race into town on. Then a few more roundabouts. So it's a complicated little run-in. The last kilometre generally straight, just a little bit of a chicane around 500 metres to go, which they'll take on the right-hand side before they open up. And just a slight bend in the road, but a drag uphill again, 1.5%, something like yesterday. So a real drag to the finish.
Well, while you've been away having your Milo, Nathan van Hooydonk went on Bellevue and says it's 2.6%. I don't know what to believe. That ramp at the end.
Well,
Sean.
It depends how far you measure from.
I guess so.
And how you measure.
Yeah, indeed. I guess so. If it's only 10 metres.
How and where?
Well, we're going to find out, that's for sure, and so will everybody else.
Yes, we will. And looking at the running, of course, when we get into that final 5 kilometres, there is a lot of furniture, as Robbie has just mentioned, and yeah, the roundabouts as well. You know, we can see there seems to be passing on one side, Derecha, which is right-hand side in a number of them. So it's going to be an interesting one. But the teams will have that, you know, well sorted out, and they will know exactly if it can be passed at both sides or just one side. They will have done the recce on that one, and they'll have, you know, people out ahead as well, just on the run-in before the finish comes up here. And you know, it is of major importance. And as we know, you know, it's so important, that final number of kilometres, that if you're a team leading out your sprinter, you do not want to go the long way around, because you can find yourself losing 10 or 15 places, and that would be a nightmare for a team preparing the sprint.
Well, they're showing great strength today, I must say, Team Visma Lisa Bike. Diminished, of course, in the absence of Dylan van Baal. We understand a broken hip. No, indeed, respite for them. And in fact, shorter gaps between the duties that you're called to perform with Team Visma Lisa Bike, Robbie. It's a team that's depleted with so many strong riders within it. However, I think they can possibly paper over the gaps, and they're making a statement today, aren't they?
Yeah, well, they can at the moment. I think the plan would have been all along that Dylan van Baal just sort of sits back, and his work would be more based around the race of Sepp Kuss. So I think we'll find it more evident what the effect is of that injury for Dylan van Baal and his abandonment of the race, what that'll be on Kuss. But for Wout van Aert, you know, relying on the really, you know, long, dragged-out chase work of Robert Geesink. And then later on, as we saw yesterday, Eduardo Affini, he did a monstrous turn towards the end there, just slightly faded in that last 300 or 400 metres. But, you know, I don't think the team will be too depleted to support Wout van Aert exactly like he needs to be today. 26.5 kilometres to go, 37 seconds now the gap to our leader, Isasa, from the Euskaltel team. The others, they've sat up, and the bunch is approaching. Well, Sean, the calm before the storm, 26.5k to go. The break more or less nullified now. Just a little bit more resistance out the front, some 36 seconds out to Isasa. But Robert Kiesig, he's done it just in a tandem with the rider from Alpecin-de-Koning, and they've controlled the 4 fairly handily.
They certainly have, and they've been doing a real strong ride here, and guessing, as we have seen there, you know, yesterday he's been on the front, I think, more than anybody else. Alpecin-de-Koning, of course, you know, putting men up there, but he is the man. And yeah, he's 18th year professional. Just imagine the kilometres he have done on the front riding like this, what he's been doing today for all of those years, and you know, he's still able to do it at this point in his career, and that is, you know, it's a great way to go out of your career after a great long career, to be able to perform like this for your team, because you know, some riders, they hang in there and they're struggling quite a lot. You just want to go on for another year, and then want to go on for another 2 years, but you're not at that level. So this is, you know, a really enjoyable way to be doing it, as Guessing is proving to be able to do it.
Yeah, he's been a high quality rider throughout his career, and won his own fair share of great races. But he's one of those rare guys who's able to then turn that into a prolonged career as a domestique, and truly love the work that he's doing within this team. And I guess it makes it easy when you've got superstars he's ridden with Roglic, Jonas Vingegaard, Wout van Aert, and when you know you've got riders like that who can finish the job off, then I guess it makes the suffering all the more worthwhile and makes it just that tiny bit easier. But for Oscar Iserbyt, he'll be finding it a little bit easier too, because he's got yesterday's winner, Caden Groves, poised a little bit further back. And I wonder if Alpecin-de-Koning, even though they had a couple of riders with mechanicals, they did burn a lot of riders quite a long way out from the finish. They hit the front with 16k to go, and they barely had anybody left to support Caden Groves for the sprint. He ended up going on the wheel of Wout van Aert and behind Eduardo Affini. I wonder if their tactic today is be a little bit more conservative. We know the rest of the field is going to let us do our thing. All eyes are on us, so we're going to use that, wait longer, and have a full-powered sprint train.
Well, that will be an interesting one. And of course, we mentioned earlier there, early part of the race, you get a lot of these guys who are in the mix up here. You know, the riders who are prepared maybe to take more risks than the bigger teams and the big leaders, going for this the sprint victory here, for the stage win. And that can also be something that the teams talk about. Okay, let's be careful in these days, the earlier days. There's so many riders capable of being in here that will maybe take a bit too much risk and push that out a bit. So if it stays out of danger, that is possibly what Alpecin-de-Koning are thinking as well. You know, let's keep in the position where we're out of that danger a bit more and play it safe in the earlier days.
23 seconds. His holding margin here is Sabi Issa, who wants the €3,000 combativity prize, and I think it'd be hard pushed to look by him, to be honest, because they want to share the love. And Luis Angel Mate has got himself a polka dot jersey. They worked well today, Sean. That was a good breakaway at the top of the day. There was a few that wanted to interlope to be part of the party, didn't get there.
No, did not get there. Were not allowed to get there, and you know, they were Asgreen, Carpenat, Kung, real powerful riders, and you can understand why they were not allowed, because if you allow them to get into the group with the 4 we had on the front all day, it would be a real difficult one to close down. But yeah, you know, it's still been quite a hard ride. I was expecting to close this one down very, very comfortable. But you can see the way they're riding here on the front of the peloton. They're having to push on, but there's no love lost between the two teams, the invited wildcard men, because you know, you can see the way they battled there against each other when they had got pretty much what they set out to do. Esquetel, especially with Mate, he got the mountain jersey, you know, secured all the points, and then they started fighting with each other, yeah, I think it's a one we might see rumbling on in this race between those two teams because of what went on today.
22.1 kilometres from home, and the last bit of sustenance is being handed out. It's 10 kilometres today, Sean, from the line where the last bidons will be handed up. You can understand why. The amount of effort they're putting in this heat as well. They are not sparing the horses today at all, are they?
No, we can see now they're not sparing the horses as we go close to the 20 kilometres to go here. You know, they're really pushing on, but yeah, one man solo out in front here. It's yeah, all under control, and you know, this man is putting in a big effort here because he has secured surely the combativity award and you know, that bigger prize money. You could expect him to knock off his effort here and allow him to be pulled back by the peloton now, because you know, he's not going to hold out there whatsoever for anything more than what he has got already.
This looks like it's going to be a two-horse race by the demeanour of those who are indeed firing into it. A lot of effort being put in here by Alpecin de Koenig and Visma Lease Bike. There may well be a few that they're getting a free ride and might have more of an option today. Those that got duked out of it yesterday. I'm still not sure whether Brian Coquard, for example, actually just didn't have the legs yesterday after what was a pretty... well, how would you describe yesterday? It was a bit of a snooze fest earlier on. This has been far more dynamic, I must admit, this time by. 20 to go, Robbie. Two-horse race today?
I think it is, in all honesty. But like we saw yesterday, such a, as you said, a snooze fest. It's such an easy ride through yesterday that for the likes of someone like Brian Coquard, it's not ideal for him.
No.
He'd rather, you know, he climbs so well. He's such a resilient rider. He's so strong. He'd rather you can sort of separate the strong from the weaker, who may end up getting in your way a bit at the finish if they, you know, they think, oh, I'm fresh, I'll have a go at the sprint, and they start just getting in the road. And I'm not sure if Brian Coquard got held up somewhat by that crash. If you look at Pavel Bittner, who finished sixth, he did get himself up to the wheel of Caden Groves, but he did lose a couple of teammates in that crash, along with Josh Tarling, with just a couple of kilometres to go. So, you know, there'll be a couple of teams there, you know, the likes of a guy like Bittner, Corbin Strong. He certainly could do it better than he did yesterday. Hopefully for him, Riley Sheehan can put him in position, because Corbin Strong came from a very long way back to get himself up into the wheels before the sprint even started. And I think he'd sort of used a lot of power to get himself in position before he tried to take on Van Aert and Caden Groves. So maybe today with Riley Sheehan they can work their way up to the front a little bit better. But it's a tricky one with all these roundabouts. So they've got that really almost a long hairpin turn, goes uphill onto the main road, swings back down off it again. More roundabouts, a sharp left-hand corner at 2.5 kilometres to go. And of course there's a couple more roundabouts in the final run to the line, but DSM with Bittner already on the left-hand side of the road, so getting themselves up there early today. Still 19 kilometres to go, so it's a really early push out to the front for them, and it'll cost them a bit of personnel when we come into the final kilometres.
Just opening up dead centre, just having a look at this slow-mo. Just don't know whether it's something untoward. I think that was just almost like whipping his own backside here. That was Mate, basically just offering up congratulations to his teammate within that group. It's opened up centre of the road, that always gets filled. Canal coming up for Movistar. Bahrain Victoria is also getting involved here. Josh Sutton being brought up. Interesting to note as well that Matti Vacek has called for a little bit of pace, and Lidl Trekker coming up. He's got Patrick Conrad, absolute lead-out star within Lidl Trek as well, that could indeed bring the young riders classification leader to the fore. He said he was disappointed yesterday after being tagged by a fan, ended up on the deck, swapped his bike, spent all his energy getting back in, said I was really disappointed I didn't get to contest the sprint. When you look at the profile of the names that actually did feature, then you can understand that Vacek has possibly got an option. Pace has picked up. We're getting back up towards that the coveted 40s, and we're supposed to be cruising around 41 kilometres an hour as the slowest predicted today. Might just almost fall over that line by the end. It's been quite benign. Gets very loud tomorrow in terms of climbing, and indeed more of a GC day tomorrow. So the sprinters have kind of got to have a day off tomorrow. They need to make sure doubly so that they'd go well today before they can have more fun on stages 5 and 7 before this race gets absolutely punishing for the big fast men. Let's see how they take this then. Sequence of roundabouts. Town planners absolutely love them. Didn't exist indeed in much of Europe until the 80s, and some going straight over the top, Sean. Bunny hopping a go-go.
Yes, well, if it's not too high to just bunny hop onto it and over the top and down the other side, definitely the best way to get through, you know, straight line, shortest way.
But Magnus Backstead, the biggest bunny hop he ever did was because he went back and measured it afterwards.
Over a house.
Was 1 meter 10. Was 1 meter and 10 centimeters. He managed to bunny hop onto a roundabout and off it.
1 meter.
Yeah.
My God.
Magnus Backstead, mind you, that's only about his femur. He's such a beast. Anyway, if you're watching, Maggie, miss you, mate. 16.7 kilometres from home. Double checking over shoulders here. EF Education, of course, just looking after Richard Carapaz. Rigoberto Urán will be part of the drive-in. He knows an awful lot about how to make the best out of a bad situation. Remember that time in the Tour de France where they said, what gear would you like? Because they're all broken. He says, I'll have 3. And he still won. Quite remarkable. Meanwhile, over the left-hand side, just look at that stream of yellow with Visma Lisa bike. Amongst their number in about 4th wheel at the moment is the red jersey, of course, of Wout van Aert. Don't forget, Caden Groves today is wearing the green jersey. Whether he'll wear it at the end of the day, I do not know. Virtual leader in that competition at the moment is Wout van Aert. Fewer points, bizarrely, available at the line today than yesterday. There was 50 up for grabs today. It's 30 for the winner. And so smaller increments as well behind that. So it's likely that Wout van Aert, if indeed he doesn't win today, will have certainly enhanced his lead in the points competition by courtesy of snaffling the last 10 available at the intermediate. Here we go, diving into it, and Bahrain victorious, wanting to work for Josh Sutterlin. We've got Pavel Bittner just off screen. They're driving into it for DSM Firmenich, also looking after Max Pol, you understand. Only 3 kilometre rule today, Sean. It was 4 yesterday. They think it's less dangerous.
Yes, and surprising when you look at the run in there, you know, from the 5 kilometres to go, it does get, you know, pretty twisty, a bit of road furniture. So they could have went for the same 4 kilometres, but, you know, we've seen that in the Tour as well, where it chops and changes a bit. You know, it's the original 3 kilometres, then pushed out to 4 as it was yesterday. There's one day where it's 5 kilometres here. So it's a bit of an experiment for the moment from organisation and the UCI. But, you know, we can see here on the front of the peloton, DSM, they're investing quite a lot. We can see Visma, they are putting a lot in, but they have to keep their GC men safe as well, as they have to do for Wout van Aert. And Seb Kuss, he has to be kept very much to the front end of affairs. He's a rider that do not like this fighting and having to, you know, push a lot and keep your position on the front of the peloton. And the best way to do it is just put a man out in front, keep to the left-hand side of the road and get everybody in a line behind him.
He's a lover, not a fighter. Robbie, there's a lot of GC teams looking after their men at the moment. It is quite technical from 5 out, as you've described. More of a task, I would have said, to protect them properly, to get down to 3, not least because at about 2.5 there's a big turn that they have to take, a left-hander. It's going to be a lot of riders on the road at that point, as if it's not the case now.
Well, there's a few twists and turns and roundabouts, as we've mentioned, but the thing that you generally get here in the Vuelta is pretty wide roads. So even now, you saw that sort of jostling for position and pushing, but you look at this road, it's really wide, mostly straight. Even that bend is very gentle. You take that absolutely full speed pedaling through with the entire bunch. There's not much to worry the bunch really in terms of technicality, like some of the ones we might see at the Giro d'Italia or even at the Tour de France. It's generally much more open at the Vuelta. Get them to the 3K, they'll be all safe. And when it comes to Sepp Kuss, he is a guy who tends to sit a bit further back and not get in amongst the mix. And this is the perfect race to do it if you're going to do it anywhere, because you mostly won't get caught out by something happening with the nature of the roads here, and in effect you can save quite a lot of energy, you know, day after day, not going through this riding at the front, really pushing that higher intensity. You're trying to always push yourself into a position where you'll see Sepp Kuss often just floating, not battling with anyone, and quite happy to just sit there and thereabouts and just pedal his way into the finish.
So let's talk about those who are going to be a feature today. Wout van Aert and Caden Groves notwithstanding, of course. Baroncini potentially for UAE Team Emirates. Let's see. Narvaez for Ineos. Casper Pedersen, why not, for T-Rex Quick Step. We have a Vatsek, self-avowed competitor for a sprint today, the leader of the Young Riders classification for Little Trek. Sander de Pestel for Decathlon AG2 on La Mondiale. Roger Adria for Red Bull Bora, if he's not on permanent and only Primoz Roglic duty. We have Corbin Strong. I think that he is a very good bet today and might even win it. He's got Riley Sheehan looking after him. Also, Nadev Rasberg will be part of a lead-out train. Useful for Corbin Strong, and they're well marshalled, that Israel Premier Tech team. Andy Cron for Lotto Destiny. They've showed a bit of willing earlier on today. Maybe again for him. Quentin Pacher for Groupama Francis, maybe. Can't see anyone for EF Education. Easy Post. They've got bigger fish to fry, and at the moment they're toasting them out front in this heat, with Richard Carapaz in a safe spot. Enric Mas likewise will be looked after, but Carlos Canal might be on sprinting duty for Movistar. Let's see. Sutton for Bahrain. Engelhardt, yes, Felix Engelhardt for Jayco, might do the Humperdinck. Let's wait and see. Guglielmi and Labar for Arkea. Vito Breit is the man for Intermarché if Arnem Marit is not their man. Pavel Bittner, we've mentioned, they're already showing that their intention, mobbing that right-hand side of the road, also looking after Max Pol, but Bittner led out by Marijn Tussveld. Brian Kokar, if he's not had too bad a day, then he will go. He likes it tougher than perhaps this. Ida Schelling for Astana, Paul Miguel for Equipo Kernfahrer, and Aberastori for Euskaltel. It's a long list, considering this is a race that is not indeed welcoming to sprinters. There's an awful lot of riders who believe they can get something out of it, and belief is a mighty thing, Robbie.
Well, you've got to have the belief. If you're going to throw yourself in amongst the sprinters in a grand right there in the wheel and just get into the battle. And not think too much. Don't sit there thinking, oh, should I be doing this? I know I'm not quite as fast as Groves. If you want to get the best result, you've just got to battle as hard as they do and push yourself up into position.
Read yourself, Sean, and read your opposition as well in these moments.
Yes, well, you have to believe, certainly, and if you are in the shape, you feel that you're in good condition, and you get a little bit of a trial run. Yesterday we did see some of the names that popped up there in that top 15. You know, those guys are going to have more confidence again today, because when you sit down and analyse it yesterday, you say, well, if I had, you know, been in that position, if I'd been in that wheel, then I could be maybe on a podium, the podium finish. And that's what you have to, you know, analyse after the experiences you get going into this race. And you know, those new guys, you know, they are really up for it, because you know, they have got the morale, they've got the big motivation, and you know, they are thinking that, yeah, I can beat the real fast guys here if I get the real straightforward clean running.
Let's see if that happens, because right now, Sean, we've got 2.5 kilometres to go before there is a sense that there's going to be a real acceleration, I believe, to be in a good place for 6Ks out. This is before the major technical section, but it is a 90-degree turn at 6. We have a sequence, really, of finish lines sometimes when it comes to technicality. As Robbie said, there is a wide open highway that can almost bring its own problems. Wider than this even is where it gets very much problematic, because there's too much space for people to play with. But that race down to 6Ks to go, Sean, it's going to be intense, because there's not much space out there, is there?
Well, it is going to be intense, and when you get a full bunch of riders, early part of the race, a relatively easy stage, when you throw that into the pot, well, then it's going to be a pretty hectic one here. And you know, looking at the front of the peloton, it's an interesting one. Red Bull, we haven't seen there. Yesterday they were very dominant on the front. Seb Kuss, I cannot see at all. He's definitely not in the front with his teammates there on the left-hand side of the road. He's, you know, quite a bit further back. And, you know, that is a risk because if there is a crash and a number of riders go down before you get to the point, 3 kilometres to go, you know, it is a concern. And certainly, you know, at this earlier part of the race, as I said, you know, a lot of teams and a lot of riders still have, you know, a lot of energy to give, and that just, you know, adds more risk into the equation.
Good to see Josh Tarling picking up the baton here, Robbie.
Yeah, good to see him bounce back after bouncing along the pavement yesterday. Josh Tarling was a really heavy fall. Felt quite awkwardly. He sort of rolled head over heels across the concrete and up against that fence, but doing his job now for the team. As you said before, they don't really have a sprinter here, but Jonathan Narvaez has some pretty good speed and does often get himself mixed up in there in the bunch sprints. I'll tell you, a surprise for me yesterday in 5th place was the climber from Lotto Destiny, the young Belgian Lennart van Eetveld, a guy who is more a pure climber than anything, but just threw himself in up there in the bunch sprint and came 5th across the line.
Good lad. Well, there you are, a little handoff to Tarling. He's going to get nervous coming through some of these twists and turns. Well, here we are. This is just one of the roundabouts that we're having to deal with that I was telling you about. They have to race to each one of these. There's another nasty one, about 1,600 metres time. That's another one of those kind of turns. Looks like the town planners have been out with the big swoopy curvy designs, and quite frankly, we're it's nice to drive, but sometimes it's not nice to race, Sean.
No, it's not nice to race. You could see there, you know, it was a very tight and out part and a big squeeze there. You can see the way it stretched the peloton out immediately. You know, anybody who had to just brake a bit, you lose a lot of places. And we could see here on the front as well, you know, there was the guy from EF, he just put his hand on Josh Tarling there to keep him from really cutting him tight into the corner. And yeah, this is full-on racing now, and risk being taken all the time.
Big pickup there, and noted that Red Bull Bora and Primož Roglic, with the wisdom that he holds, just trying to ride the centre line there, get himself into a bit of safety, wants to be up front. 6.8 kilometres to go. Next one of those 90-degree turns, Robbie, coming up in about 700 metres time. Yep. They all know about it.
Yep. Yeah, at 6.2 kilometres to go, they've got a right-hand turn through a sort of a quarter way through a roundabout. 300 metres later, there's another roundabout. They take the right-hand side. At 5.2, they do that long hairpin uphill and onto that main road, and then it's about a kilometre along there, and they do exactly the same again. A hairpin right, a elongated one at that. Few riders going all the wide way round, rather, out of that roundabout, so losing themselves 10 or 15 positions, and you get that once or twice, and the battle is over. You will not get yourself back to the front. So just a succession of big roundabouts, and at the front you can take them at full speed. Just a bit further back, a bit more jockeying for position as they come through 3 wide.
Big squeeze. This is that big carousel, if you will. They come into it. It will not unwind until about about 5 kilometre mark. So here we go. We switch into this right now. It's kind of a double phase right-hander, right onto the roundabout, right again off it, and then this little climb, because you've got to get over the highway that we are managing here, come back over yourself on the bridge. Essentially, you'll see it in a few moments time. It's just there on the right hand side of your screen. That's where we're coming back, and then of course it's going to be high pace all the way down to about 2.5 kilometers to go. They've got this drag. It will go down. Don't forget, we've got a drag up to the finish at the end of today, maxing out about 2.2%, but averaging 1.1, but still they're very much going to feel it. They're on duty here. They're going for it, Robbie.
Yeah, and the danger is, I just saw it on both sides actually, there's a lot of debris on the side of the road. So if you're trying to improve your position up there, you're in huge danger of picking up a puncture. A lot of riders now drifting out the back of the peloton. Pace really on, their job is done, placing their leaders. But look at that single file line from about halfway along this peloton, bunched at the front, but riders scrambling back, just trying to stay in contention. Caden Groves on the right-hand side of picture with the men in blue in the double denim. Right in the centre, Primoz Roglic being protected by his Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe teammates. Look over the shoulder from Owen Dool, and he's lost Richard Carapaz, the man he's trying to guide into that 3K to go marker for the moment. And no one of the sprinters teams really taking it up on the front full lead out just yet. 4.4 to go.
Well, about 1,300 more metres, Sean. The GC men will be out of this, but it seems stripped down, doesn't it, with the pace and, of course, the technicality of what we've dealt with already.
Yes, it is getting stretched out a bit, but we can see here, you know, another flush of riders coming up on our left side, right-hand side of the road, and that's the problem on this wide road here. Unless the pace is very fast, you're going to get that problem of riders coming up left and right, and we still have, you know, 40, 50 riders very much grouped together.
What pace we have now, very different to how it has been ridden so far today. This is a sort of a long section that just unwinds into another roundabout here, almost equidistant either side. There will be a faster way through, but sometimes what you want more than anything else is just a bit of space. It's the final frontier, and we're going to get that with about 2.3 kilometres to go. That's the next real obstacle that they're going to deal with. It does bend gently right before a left-hander 90-degree once again. A quarter of a roundabout, Robbie.
Yeah, that 2.4 corner. Yeah, it should be a pretty fast one. It's a bigger road, so they should be able to swing through that quickly. And the lead out now starting to come into full effect from Alpecin Koenig for Caden Groves. The last 20 minutes, look at that, 53.6 kilometre an hour average over the last 20 minutes. And it's only going to get faster from here on through to the finish. And a very small, compact bunch to the front. The rest just riding to just hang on to try and keep the same time as the rest. So Alpecin Koenig in charge at the moment. Caden Groves sitting up there in third wheel in the green on the right-hand side of picture. Wout van Aert now, it's him and Eduardo Affini, and it's Affini's job. There he is in the yellow. He's still on the wheel of Attila Volta, who's doing a very, very good job for Van Aert. There he is in the red Van Aert. So Affini is actually riding on the wheel of Van Aert at the moment, waiting for when he's needed. This is that sharp corner, 2.4 to go.
Here we go. Caden Groves in a decent position at the moment, still waiting to just take a vault forward. GC men, you saw them clearly at that last squeeze, just easing back a little bit. A bit of picture break up, but solid right now, as is, of course, Attila Volta whenever he's called to duty. That's for Visma Lease Bike. Doesn't want to be leading in Alpecin Koenig and almost drift to the side of the road as if to say, apologies, fellas, it's now your turn. They hit the front. Green jersey is on display with Caden Groves tucked in, just looking for the red jersey of Wout van Aert. Can't quite see him. In fact, he's absolutely there on a tow rope, screened by the big form of Caden Groves. And here we come through the little shilly-shallies right now. Another roundabout to be dealt with. There'll be one at 850 metres to go. And then we have that little sort of almost chicane section with about 600 metres or 500 metres to go. Campenaerts decides to take off. On his case almost immediately, Arne Marit decides that he wants to go and join the party. Can anybody else indeed come and have some fun? Let's wait and see. Marit, it's Vitor Breit from Intermarché who just hangs back a little bit, allowing Marit to go up the road. He's supposed to be his lead-out man. He's on other duties at the moment. He's on help himself mode. 1.5 kilometres to go. Caden Groves, team Alpecin Koenig, putting out fires at the moment. And that fire has been set by Campenaerts. If you wouldn't let me in the break, then I'm going to break your spirit at this point. Fabulous demeanour by this man. He's determined, Sean, to have a go.
Yes, well, the perfect timing there. Just hit it when there was a little bit of maybe a lull. The sprinters teams and their domestiques just holding off and try and take them by surprise. Where we can see Alpecin Koenig are the ones who are starting to close it down here, and still a kilometre to go for Campenaerts. Is not going to be
big turn here. Big turn for him, and it's an opportunity to almost slingshot off the curve here, track cycling styly, and indeed that gap is eaten up, and Campenaerts is not going to have some glory today. But how much have they spent here, Alpecin Koenig, in this endeavour? There's the green jersey. They're coming up thick and fast here. Marit and Breit now just getting themselves into position. They'll be able to see the line. There's a little shimmy, don't forget, still with about 400 metres to go, but their tongue hanging right now. And Aberastorian got some Martin for Euskaltel in the orange are also coming to play the game. And here it is. It's a big open lead out right now. Herman's doing a fantastic job on his back wheel. Caden Groves, he's almost up to speed right now. And there is Van Aert. He's in the frame here. Corbin Strong also wants to play the game, but is out of position, I'm afraid, just for the time being. A big drive here by the man who wears the red jersey, but Groves is coming back in a missy. No! Gets there. Phenomenal stuff. Well, Van Aert makes it home. Abra Story very fast finishing on the ramp here. Almost knew instinctively which side of the road to go. That was a piece of class.
Oh, absolute class by Wout van Aert, and it looked like Alpecin de Koning were just starting to run out of just personnel there because they had to put in such a hard chase behind Victor Kampenaerts, and when it came down to the lead out, it was a good one from Alpecin de Koning, but Wout van Aert, you saw him start to loom up out of the wheel of Caden Groves, and he went early, got across to the barriers. Caden Groves had to back off, go back around and try and come again. It was all too late. The power of Wout van Aert was able to hold him off.
Goodness me, what a win in the red.